Okay, doctorarjaybe here, and this video I was going to talk a little bit on what you can do to train for race day or competition day. Now, uh, I've been a runner for 40 years. I've been doing weight training for the last 6 years. So I know a little bit about what it takes to train properly for a competition. Um, I did many races in my 40 years. I probably did at least 20 marathons. I did some ultra marathons, which were, those races that go beyond the marathon. I did triathlons, cross country skiing, different things. And of course, I had to train for all these things. If I was going to do a competition in a certain sport, you have to train for that sport. Um, in other words, you can't expect that you're going to put in 1 mile a day and then go run a marathon. It just doesn't work that way. But you have to also consider that for all the competitions, you have to have a base. Again, even if you're doing a short race, let's say 3 miles, which is a 5K race, you can't expect that you're going to do like 2 or 3 miles, say a couple times a week. And because you can do it fast in training, that you don't have to worry then about your racing. Again, you have to have a base, for your body so that when you want to push it, you can. So in general, the training should include some easy paced training that will give you a base of endurance or strength. In your powerlifting competitions, you don't want to train for your powerlifting competitions only by trying to lift the heaviest thing that you can. That doesn't make much sense. It's a good way to get injured if you're constantly doing, the high intensity stuff, but not a good idea if you want to get your best performance in competition. You got to understand that in competition, you're going to be stimulated by adrenaline and the whole competition setup, so that you can perform a little bit better than what you normally do. So your training should really be a kind of training that gives you a base, of strength, a base of endurance, so that when you do go to the competition, you can perform better. In my sport of running, most of the time, what I was doing was training at about 80% of my best performance. So that, I would be making progress, increasing my ability. And then on race day, I allowed the adrenaline and the cheer of the crowd to help me to do a better performance than I did in training. There's also a benefit when you're coming into race day or competition day of being rested. So again, you can do things to try to improve your performance. In running, it would be like intervals. In powerlifting, you can do training that will push you a little bit further, do heavier weights, etc., for a short period. But coming into the competition, you want to make sure that you're well rested. So one of the things that I used to do was, for a week or two before any race, I pretty much took the edge off. I would run less. I would run at slower speeds, so that by the time the race day came, I was just so hungry for a good performance. I recently did a race that was a 5K race, and I didn't follow these recommendations. I didn't start my taper until a couple of days before the race. And because of that, when I got to the race, I wound up feeling kind of tired, and I didn't do a very good performance in this race. It was one of the slower races that I've had recently. So that's kind of, kind of a warning for those who are constantly pushing it and training, that you might then wind up having a poor performance in your race or your competition. Keep it in mind, you have to kind of have a base of training to do any performance that you want to do. You can't expect to, let's say, be a good racer if all you do is race. You got to also do your training. You got to have your base. Likewise, any sport that you do, you can't expect that you're going to do any sport just by doing the sport. So let's just say you're a basketball player. You can't expect that the only training you're going to do is playing basketball. No, you got to go back to the gym. You got to practice your shots. You got to practice the runs and do the basics that are the part of the sport. Okay, so hopefully you understand this. One of the reasons I did mention this was somebody who was asking why his lift was not heavier, and it was kind of obvious that what was going on when he described it was that he was just pushing himself too hard, and forgot about doing the basic training that you need to do proper lifting. Okay, and hopefully you enjoyed some of this, and it helped you. Like I said, I was a runner and racer for many years, and some of these this information was based on that.